We often define matter as anything that occupies space and has its different properties such as mass. And since then, we thought that is a property of matter. Or is it? Matter is composed of countless of atoms. These atoms have its mass and composed of different subatomic particles: electrons, protons, and neutrons. Electron is a fundamental particle, while proton and neutron are still composed of other subatomic particles. These fundamental particles are oriented in a standard model. Scientists created a standard model to study and describe the fundamental particles in physics and how they interact with each other. The standard model includes three families of particles: the 6 leptons, which have no strong interactions, the 6 quarks, from which all hadrons are made, and the particles that mediate the various interactions, or the gluons. However, the standard model has its capping flaw. Scientists weren't able to fully explain how these fundamental particles that made up the matter obtain its mass. And this is where the Higgs field comes in. So, what really is Higgs field? What is this Higgs particles? The Higgs particle and its associated field were hypothesized back in the year of 1964 by British physicist Peter Higgs and his group to fill that gapping flaw in the standard model. They hypothesized that these elementary particles were massless but gained mass when they interacted in an energy field that pervades the entire universe. The Higgs mechanism sets up a field that interacts with particles to endow them with mass, and the Higgs boson is the particle associated with that field. Thus, basically we can say that the mass is not an intrinsic property of matter. Imagine looking in front of a senior high school building watching the parents and other students. When just plain folks try to go from one end of the room to the other, they can walk through easily, with no resistance from the crowd. But when a known person or authority like the advisor or the teacher they needed shows up, other students press around him so tightly that the teacher or the advisor can hardly move. And once he moves, the crowd moves with the teacher in such a way that the whole group is harder to stop. The students are like Higgs boson. The just plain folks that pass by are like massless particles, and the teacher is like a massive Z boson. This means that the particles with small mass or no mass at all barely interact within the Higgs field and the Higgs particles, while those which have obtained greater mass often interacts within the Higgs field or the Higgs particle. For several decades, the existence of this elusive particle is not evidently known, not until the year of 2012 where the Large Hadron Collider LHC confirmed its existence. An LHC is a gigantic ring-shaped machine that enables to send beam of charged particles approaching the speed of light to collide with each other. The collision of the two charged particles resulted in leaf tracks of elementary particles, including Higgs boson. Finally, scientists were unable to put this missing piece in the standard model on how particles have obtained the mass that they have. Now, what can this information do to us? It is a sense that the universal medium gives particle its mass. And without mass, the universe that we live today will no longer exist. So, Higgs boson and Higgs particles is so important that it is sometimes labeled as the God's particle. Thus, there is no existence of everything without the Higgs boson.